Well, you see, that's where you should go for the funny one, right? Is just do the straight up George Michael reference.
Oh,
I'm
uh,
gonna be your father figure with George McHale here on Inside Comics, right?
you gotta have faith.
You got to have faith. Exactly.
Hey guys, welcome to Inside Comics with George McHale. Really quick, before we get going, if you like this content, hit subscribe and tell a friend about it. It'll help the channel grow. My guest today is Preston Poulter. Dude, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
We tabled at Wizard World Convention in like Oakland, and
Yep.
or we tabled next to each other. And you were kind enough to have me on your YouTube channel in
Yep.
like January when I was doing a Kickstarter for my book Cover of Darkness and help me promote it. So today we're going to talk about your newest Kickstarter. It's for the graphic novel of White Lily.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so this is a project that you've been working on for some time. It's like
It is,
168
yeah.
pages.
168 pages, yes.
Yeah.
It's all done. I'm glad it's done. I'm glad I did it. But if anyone came to me and said, "Hey, I've got a World War II story," I would be like, "No, get away! I don't back." It's a hard sell for most comic book fans. Now, I got to say that I, like you, used to be back in the olden days traveling around the country, and White Lily sold very well. If there was like a Air Force base nearby or something, people who never bought comic books before would walk by and I'd pitch them the story, and they would buy typically multiple issues, whatever I would have there, they would pick up, because the themes of military and the Air Force and service and World War II, these are kind of close at home to most people I would encounter physically at like Tulsa, Oklahoma, for instance. But on how well it does in crowdfunding numbers, that's a different market, and that market seems to want sexy ladies doing cool, fantastical things. So there we go. Guinevere 4 will be out before the end of the year, so I'm looking forward to that one.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk to you a little bit about your YouTube channel.
Okay.
You seem to talk a lot about a group called Comicsgate on there.
Yes, I do. Go ahead.
What is Comicsgate?
Okay. That is a complex question because, well, it's a group, but who's in the group kind of depends on where it goes in time. And like with political parties, it's kind of easy or hard, but we at least use the same labels over time. But people will slander and say, "Oh, the Democrats were the ones who were championing slavery," and that is technically true in the 1800s. But now it's a totally different party, right? But it still carries the same name, and just over time that group's kind of membership changed as new people came in, old people left. So here in the internet, the group by the name of Comicsgate has not been around that long, but in internet years or in internet time, 3 years is that's like a lifetime. So there was it's a consumer. It started, I should say, as kind of the consumer backlash, conservative leaning, anti-woke. You can think of it as like an anti-woke group that didn't like the tendency towards social justice for comic books in particular. Like the making Iceman gay, making Thor a woman, making as well as a lot of like choices to desexualize. Okay, She-Hulk maybe too sexy, maybe let's kind of back her down, and now she looks a little bit more like her male counterpart. So there was kind of this anti-woke backlash, if you will, which started out under that hashtag. And then, and they were kind of certainly following in the footsteps of Gamergate. And then it started to attract the attention of certain disgruntled pros, namely, Ethernet Skyrim would be, the biggest name who really got involved and embraced it. And it was already kind of a group that tended to do the 4chan trolley thing. And then Ethernet Skyrim has, kind of a bit of a sadistic sense of humor. So that's when it started to really pick up the reputation as a hate group, or where it was starting to, attack various comic book creators online, and engage in essentially online harassment tactics. And that's when I kind of started to take notice and report on it, and then they kind of turned on me. Also, I would say I have applied for the trademark to the term Comicsgate, which also has caused a bit of anger towards me by them. So that is ongoing. I'll let you know how that one works, because nothing involving the legal process happens quickly, but that's happening, and I'll let you know how that goes. But that I saw it was something that was happening in front of me, and I felt like I could at least cast a light on what I viewed as some of the bad things going on. I mean, outside of the online harassment, there were a lot of people who were just embracing this identitarian of, yeah, I'm Comicsgate, I'm part of you. That's why you should buy my book, which would inevitably be, poorly produced, come out late, bad art, and just kind of not a good deal for the consumer. So I would often showcase some of those things. And I get a number of critics of, you can't criticize them, they're on your side. And I was like, what does that mean? So anyway, that's
okay. So why did you try and trademark the name Comicsgate?
because I'm a vindictive bastard.
Oh, so I got a spite.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like, for me, on one hand, I can relate to wanting the characters you love to still be the characters that you love.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I can see
when
that.
you want to buy an Iron Man book, you want to buy a Tony Stark book. You
Right.
don't want whoever else they have in the role.
Right.
And so I can understand that kind of frustration that people have, but those things have always happened. It's not new where they've kind of swapped out heroes, and it's always kind of temporary and
Sure.
that sort of thing. But I understand people's kind of frustration with that situation. On the other hand, though, like, I don't know, I try and live my life by like the golden rule, and treat people the way that you want to be treated. So
Right.
I've seen some things that people say and do out there regarding this stuff, and it doesn't seem great to me at all.
No, no, it doesn't. But that's all right. Well, to give you kind of probably a better answer, now the takeaway message that that group is going to say is, because Preston's trademark because he's a vindictive bastard, in which I have to say yes. But also, there is quite frankly, we are seeing a sea change. I think where the traditional comic book model of distribution and sales through your local comic book store is declining, whereas the direct to consumer, particularly through crowdfunding, is growing. And we're starting to see increasingly people leaving, sometimes voluntarily, sometimes and joining the crowdfunding model. And this year had some great successes. We had Keanu Reeves teaming up with someone to do, the Berserker, however you want to pronounce that comic.
Yeah, Ron Gurney. Yeah.
Yeah. And then earlier in the year, you had Todd McFarlane, and God, it was like Spawn was like over 3 million, I want to say. So we're seeing some spectacular successes, and really, if anything, crowdfunding is growing. And the thing about it is there's no barrier to entry, or at least there is, but it's kind of small. The barrier to entry towards you putting up a crowdfund for your comic book tomorrow is dramatically less than if you wanted to have your comic book in comic book stores next year. And the thing is that people, look, I lived out in LA for a while. So I'm just used to being in a culture, and I guess LA kind of got me ready for it. Being in a culture where everybody had an entertainment idea that they thought was golden and was going to make millions and millions of dollars. And when you kind of get from the starry-eyed dreamer to the pragmatic entrepreneur who's pricing his books well and getting them out on time and having happy customers, there's a long path there that a lot of people simply are prepared to make. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I kind of recognize that there is a need to work with comic creators and create kind of a community for them. And that was one of the many promises of Comicsgate. And so I'm looking at it like, okay, I want to do that. And I want to take all the hateful elements and I want to end them. So that is my current grand plan, is to get rid of all the harassing people who are selling based on drama, based on personal attacks, based on simply hatred, and just get those out of the indie comic book scene
Do
and foster a
do
place
you
for new
think that you're
creators.
kind of adding to the kind of the drama and the fighting, to taking their name and trying to trademark it, and you know, there's a little bit of name calling on your end too. So like,
Show me a name that I called anybody.
well, I can't like just specifically. You've kind of, said these guys their books are low quality, that they're
Sure.
late.
And I talked about that every week on, and it wasn't calling a name. It would be like, look, let me just give you, all right, I'm going to give you a few examples here. Um, when I, because there was a lot of attention on me when the news story broke of, oh, Preston Poulter has taken out, the Comicsgate trademark. And I made him a deal. I'm like, I tell you what, guys, if you can, in the next 90 days, bring these very late projects to their customers, I'll give it to you. And I named off like 5 or 6 projects. This was back in April or May. They're still unfulfilled. All these projects took, thousands of dollars from consumers promising a product, hasn't come out, and no one in Comicsgate really bothers to talk about it. And so when I go, hey, how come the chicken book hasn't come out? Right? I mean, like, this is a problem. There needs to be someone stepping in going, where's the quality? Where's the focus on the consumer? And if that's drama, okay. I mean, it's not sharing a sex tape, but if everyone wants to just put that under the blanket of drama, then feel free.
Okay. Do you think that you can like someone's art and not like their politics or their kind of stances?
I
Like,
would hope so.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I would hope
and,
so.
and even beyond that, though, I find it kind of difficult with this kind of new culture of kind of holding people accountable
Right.
for their actions. And
Right.
someone like just like going to music, someone like
Right.
R. Kelly seems kind of gross,
Sure.
but the remix to Ignition is awesome.
There
And
you go.
like, what are you gonna do about that? Like, are you gonna like
Yeah.
not like that song? I don't think.
And Woody Harrelson and Sun Yi, and the biggest one, probably, and definitely the Hollywood gut check, uh, was that director from the '60s who had to flee the United States because of having sex with an underage girl. I'm trying to remember. He directed Rosemary's Baby and a number of other ones.
Roman Polanski.
Yeah, Roman Polanski. Yeah, yeah. He had to flee the United States to France, and is still not allowed back in the United States. But people still like, look, Roman Polanski puts out some good movies, and people in Hollywood are. I think he still gets. There was some controversy about, didn't he get nominated for an Oscar or something, and he still wanted essentially for statutory rape. You can absolutely separate artist from art.
I think one category that's hard for me to separate is like comedy. You know,
Yeah.
and even then, like the dentist routine that Bill Cosby does,
Yeah.
it's still funny, but
Yes.
I don't think I can really sit down and watch the Cosby Show anymore. It just kind of
Right.
gives me the creeps,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a complicated sort of situation of, maybe you still like somebody's art, and
Right.
and you know, you don't necessarily support their politics. But I'd like to maybe switch gears and
Sure. Good.
talk more about the White Lily graphic novel. For people
Okay.
who aren't familiar with White Lily, what is it?
White Lily was the aviator call sign of the deadliest female fighter pilot who ever lived.
Okay.
And I have now hold a registered trademark to that term when it comes to comic books, where I tell her story in 5 issues now available as the collected trade paperback on Kickstarter.
Great. So it's about a fighter pilot
Yeah,
in
she
World
flew for
War
the Soviet
II.
Union. Yeah, during the Second World War at the battles of Stalingrad and Kursk. There, as with anything involving the Soviets in history, it's a little sketchy. How many planes did she actually shoot down? Some people within the Ethan Van Sciver circle love to point and go, "Oh, you took some liberties with history." I'm like, what? It's in the genre of historical fiction. That's what you do. But secondly, given that these both happened in the Soviet Union, the two main stories, her and Katya Budanova, the #2 pilot, there's plenty of blanks there that any creator has to fill in with just some guesswork, because accurate historical accounting was not really high on the list of Soviet priorities. It just wasn't. So they never let the truth get in the way of a good story which suited their bias.
What kind of reward tiers are you offering for the crowdfunding project right now?
$25 gets you the book, and that includes delivery charges in the United States.
Oh wow, so that's
Yeah,
very reasonable.
yeah. That's how I price my stuff. I always want it to be like, wow, what an amazing value. So $55 gets you the book, the calendar, and the poker deck. I've added the for a $20 add-in, you can get the Princess versus Zombies Snow White cover, as well as I have the other comics I do as add-ons that you can just grab as part of the checkout process in Kickstarter itself. But yeah, I try and price things very reasonably. Hopefully someone out there appreciates it.
Oh, I'm sure your customers do.
Yeah.
And your YouTube channel, if people want to head on over and check you out, what's it called?
PocketJacksComics.com.
Great. Preston, I want to thank you so much for being on Inside Comics.
Oh, thanks.
It was really nice chatting with you. It's the political side of comic books is interesting to me. I'm not really too keen to kind of get into that too much.
Right.
I kind of always want to stay neutral,
I understand.
At the end of the day, we're all kind of nerds just trying to make books, and
There
we
you go.
try and be nice to each other.
Right. I'm with you.
But thank you so much for being
Sure.
on Inside Comics with George
No
McKenna,
problem.
Preston Poulter. Catch you next time.